Us today we are hosting Madam Charlene, and she's the Vice President of the Toastmasters. Thank you so much, Charlene, for coming to my show.
I'm the President of the Toastmasters.
Yeah, sure. Now, tell us, we've had so many women, they become very successful, and others, they are very miserable with their life. It's like, a coin, it has both sides. Women, others, they're very happy with their life. Others, they're very miserable, they're mistreated. But look at you, you're very successful. Tell us what you do, your life.
Well, I've always known what I wanted to do. Most people don't. A lot of women base their whole life on getting married and finding a perfect partner in their life. And, they go to school, but they always are looking for the perfect relationship. I always want to be known as the world's most fortunate traveler. I want to travel and see the world. And I wanted to be married, but I really wanted to be successful in my own right. And I've always known that. So I started studying astrology when I was 11 years old. By the time I turned 18, I took my own babysitting money, my first official job, to find a professional astrologer to teach me how to do the math in astrology. So as soon as I got out of high school, I was taking all the math classes I can, privately tutored by a professional astrologer. And I did that on my own money. I worked all day long to pay for 2 hours of classes. It was $20 for 2 hours of classes. I got $3 at the insurance agency, and I got $1.50 maybe an hour being a babysitter. So I worked all day long to pay for 2 hours of math classes. I had classes for 4 months, and then intermediate and advanced classes after that. And I became the youngest person in the state to get certified as a professional astrologer at the age of 20.
Wow.
So when I turned 25, the mayor appointed me as board of the astrology chairperson for the Board of Astrological Examiners to give the exam at City Hall that determines whether or not you're a certified professional astrologer or not. And it's a 7-hour exam.
And by that time, you're 25 years?
I was 20 years old when I passed it. When I turned 25, I became the chairperson that gives the examination as a professional astrologer. I determine whether or not you're going to be a professional astrologer and get certified by the city.
Wow.
And Atlanta has done this since 1970. And a group of astrologers got together and wanted to get passed. So the state always had things about fortune-telling fines, and the astrologers didn't want to be lumped in with the Madame Bells and the fortune tellers. So they wanted to have it separate from that.
Okay, doing all this, did your parents back you up in doing all this, or it was because of yourself driving you?
It's more because of myself. My dad didn't believe in it, and he didn't think that it was a good choice for a profession. He wanted me to do anything but that. But my grandmother had my chart done when I was born, and it runs on my mother's side of the family. And my mom taught me how to read the ephemeris, which is a lot of math, when I was 11 years old. And I've always loved it, but I never thought I'd actually have a profession at it. My teacher told me since I spent so much time and energy learning it that I should go in and get certified. And so I did. And then I also worked the psychic fairs at the Foundation of Truth. And when I was 19, I went before the board to see if I could work the psychic fairs. You have to read for everybody. I got approved, and I started working on Saturdays once a month. I'd work from 10 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, and I did 3 readings per hour, but like 18 readings a day. And I do that every single month for from the time of 1979 to 1986. And another friend of mine had a psychic fair, so I worked 2 psychic fairs a month to get my speed up and to get exposure. But I also trained in mediumship and psychic development and handwriting analysis and the tarot cards. I took classes in the Kabbalah from a rabbi, and all the classes that were available in Atlanta in spiritual, any kind of psychic things or spiritual or astrology. And then in '87, I went to a place called Camp Chesterfield in Indiana, where it's a spiritual seminary school, and I went there for 10.5 years to get my 4-year degree because it is 565 miles up and back. So I spent about $30,000 on my education becoming a medium, a professional medium.
Was it coming from you or from your parents?
From me.
Okay.
I did it myself.
So how are you managing it? By doing all those things and then going back to school? You did it?
I'm working full time, and then putting myself, slowly getting my certification and serving other churches. You have to serve churches in between getting your papers. And you have to bring, it has to be notarized, and you have to turn that in before they will pass you on to the next level.
Okay. Now, with your success, does it come a point that there was a point you're getting discouraged, or no, like you want to do it but you can't do it, you felt like you can't do it at all?
Well, I never had any backup. I never had a roommate I didn't get married till I was 38 years old, so I've pretty much always been on my own, doing it myself. No one, I didn't get any bonus perks or any grants or funding from anybody else. I did it all myself, so I'm a trailblazer.
And you're all-rounded person because you've done
I've done
so
it
many
myself.
things.
I could write a book, or I could teach a college course on how to market yourself as a psychic, because I know how to do press releases, and before anybody was actually doing any press releases, most of the psychics in the Atlanta area, most of them work the psychic fairs and stuff, and they always wonder how I do it. Well, I'm fast and I'm quick and I'm accurate. And I've been written up in tons of newspapers for my accuracy. I work for the police department on missing murder cases. I've helped locate bodies in lakes when they can't find them. When the Stockbridge Fire Department couldn't find a man's body in Lake Spivey in 2004, they sent someone in for a reading and they didn't tell me what it was for. And from the spirit world, he came in and told me where his body was and when it would be found, and I gave specifics about his life. It turned out to be all true, and the body floated up exactly where I said, and it saved the family $5,000.
Okay, make me understand, but what makes you have that self-drive, the motivation to keep on going, to becoming successful? What backs you up? What really motivates you?
Spirit.
The Spirit of God? Or?
Spirit of God and my guides and teachers, yeah.
Okay.
I've always known since I was a little kid that there was a voice talking to me or information that would come to me that most people don't get. It's gotten stronger as I've gotten older. When I went to camp, I would get feedback and the seances from my guides and teachers about the purpose of why I was born and why I'm here and what I came to do. And I know it through my astrology and the kinds of clients I've had from around the world, the kind of places that Spirit has sent me and the doors that have opened for me that most people will never have those kinds of opportunities. And I know that it's part of God's plan of why I'm here. And a lot of times when I get to a roadblock and I think, this is not what I wanted, because our ego wants it to be a certain way. But the challenge in life that most people have a hard time understanding is it's not my will, it's God's will. So perhaps in the direction that I was wanting to go, maybe there's a bend in the road and God has a different plan for me. That it didn't happen at 4:52 doesn't mean it can't happen at 6:52.
Right.
So throughout my life, I've always been shown things that most people don't have that preview or that vision or sight, but I've always had it, and it's always come to me through dreams or audibly I'll hear things being said to me, and sure enough it comes to pass.
Okay, now we find that so many people, especially let's say us women, after we get married and maybe we didn't even go to school or something just happened and we got kids, it happens that our dreams are shunned. They just go out and we forget about ourselves. We now start focusing on the family and the kids. What is your secret towards that?
Well, I always wanted to have a family and kids, but it didn't work out that way. And the choices I had for the male partners that, I could have had a family, were not good choices. And I wanted someone, if I'm going to do that, that's really going to be there and believe in what I do. And it didn't work out. So my chart shows that my focus in this life is more about my work. And I love kids and I always wanted a family, but I like the independence and the freedom that I have with my job, that I can do what I want to do in the way I want to do it. And there's a lot of women that come to me. There was one in particular that came not too long ago, and her chart astrologically shows that her whole life has been taking care of her husband, her kids, and she's an artist, and now the kids have gone off to college, and her husband, she's here in Atlanta, but the job that he needs to keep their lifestyle in place is not in Atlanta, it's in Boston, and he's going to be traveling around the world. She'll be here, but he's going to be living up there. And her kids are gone, so everything that she's been taking care of and nurturing is now gone. And I said, there's a time where when we're giving, we're in control, but when you're on the receiving end, you're vulnerable. So now you have to be comfortable being on the receiving end. And I said, your time is to go to Europe or to France, because she speaks fluent French, and take some art classes and to be re-inspired by your natural gifts. Your kids are doing their thing, your husband's doing his. When is it your turn to do what you're supposed to? I said, it is. And you just feel like a fish out of water. I said, a woman is going to ask you to go to Europe with her, and she'll have a place for you to stay, and everything's all opening up for you, and you're supposed to go. And she couldn't see, and I said, it'll happen in about a week or two, and you're going to be going, and you should be taking some art classes when you get over there. Mm-hmm. A week later, she got a call from her friend, her husband got the job, and her kids are gone, and they invited her to go, and she's going over there. She's going to take some art classes in France. And she's never been out, she's never gotten to travel outside the U.S. She's always been dealing with the family and stuff. So now her life begins now, and her chart showed it would be in her late 40s, early 50s when the doors would open up and she'd get to do what she came to do for herself, not just for her family, but for herself, her own identity.
Okay, Ms. Charlene, you've just also talked about education. Would you count like education is the key to success? You have to go to school to be successful in life. What's your take on that?
There's three aspects to it. I didn't finish college. I think that if you have a natural ability or talent, that you need to educate yourself the best that you can from a business standpoint. You can't just rest on the talent alone. You have to know all aspects of it. And education is very important, but also there has to be a drive or ambition. Because I know a lot of people that never finish college, but they're very extremely hard workers.
Right.
They have the ambition. They're willing to do whatever it takes to get to the top and work a lot harder than the average person that has a college degree that has no motivation. Well, I got a degree. Where are the jobs? Why am I not getting a job? Well, they don't have the gumption to get out and follow through. Or they're given names and stuff from people. Well, they're like, that's not exactly what I want to do. Well, maybe that's a starting point. You can't just fall out of college and get this particular job making $60,000 right off the bat. You have to work your way up the totem pole. And there are dues to be paid. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They come and ask me all the time after they take one of my classes for 8 weeks, I want to quit my regular job and do what you do full time. I want to start doing readings. I don't want to have to go to a regular office and sit there and, and do that kind of stuff. I just want to do readings and stay home and make my schedule. Well, that sounds great in theory, but I spent more than, 20 years of my life working, and I have a national business. It's not just local, it's national, because I've known 278 radio stations. I'm known all throughout the United States and Canada, and they're just local. I mean, you have to really, want it, and you have to make a lot of sacrifices, and they want it to fall into place and their little schedule. It just doesn't work that way. If you're going to be really good at what you do, there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make with family. There's a lot of long hours you have to put in. All the billionaires that I've read for and seen, everybody think, oh, when I have all this money. Well, yeah, you have a lot of responsibility when you get the money. You have to be on board of directors. You have to be able to read. You have to be able to sign contracts. And yeah, you can have administrative people do that, but can you trust those people?
Right.
You're paying them a lot of money, but are they really serving you? You have to be able to know what the financial reports are. You have to be able to read all that stuff.
Exactly.
And it's a full-time job. It's not something, it's a 24-hour day, 7-day a week. And think, oh, well, they can just take off in their Learjet. Well, yeah, and while they're on their Learjet, they're reading all these reports, and they have people that want them to donate money to the tune of several millions, 30 million a year. Well, then they have to find out about that. But they have a staff of people working for them, but they still have to know how to run everything.
Right. Now, our question here is, women, we normally find ourselves that we don't believe in ourselves, especially if you are not married or maybe your spouse left you or something. We cannot disappoint ourselves, trying to say that we can't do anything with ourselves. What would you tell those women that they are down there, they don't have family, husband to lean on, or even anybody they can count on to? What would you say to those women?
Well, depending on what they got going on their chart or where they are in their life, that just because it didn't happen today at 4:52 doesn't mean it can't happen at 6:52. That God has a special plan, you have to believe, and I give them specific directives on doing a treasure map and the goals of what they have for themselves. There's a lady that came to me, and after I had read for her, she's 54 years old, she'd been married, divorced, she lived in Manhattan, her kids lived in Arizona, she hardly got to see them, and she was a grandmother, and she had a really stressful job, and her boss didn't treat her right, and she worked in film and photography. And she told me after I read for her, if I didn't tell her something really good was going to happen soon, she'd go into the roof of her building in Manhattan to see if she jumped, would she be a paraplegic or would she die? So if I didn't tell her something really good was going to happen soon, she said she didn't know how much longer she could hang on. She'd actually thought about hurling herself onto the concrete and just ending it. Wow. I said, well, if you hate your boss so much, who is it you want to work for? She said, I'd like to work for Kodak. I said, well, you need to put their logo up like you work for Kodak. You make $150,000 annual income. I said, well, where do you want to travel? And she goes, I'd like to go to Paris, to London, and Australia. I said, well, you need to put the Eiffel Tower up there. You might end up in Las Vegas because they have a little, or the Arc de Triomphe, and then Big Ben up there because there's only one of those, and the Red Bank of Australia. And I said, well, what else? And she goes, I'd like some flowers. I said, we'll put pictures of flowers up there like you're being gifted flowers.
Right.
And I said, and what else? She goes, fancy restaurant, Le Sur, La Tesse, $125 a pop. People can take you out to lunch, but you have to be open to receiving the free lunch. And a lot of times when that happens, they think, well, I don't have a lot of money, so if they invite me out for $125 lunch, then that means in 3 weeks, I'm obligated to take them out to lunch, so I can't accept this because I can't reciprocate. But reality is you should say, yes, I would love to. Because we have to be comfortable being on the receiving end too. And for most women, we work really hard and we just feel like we're not going where, but you have to be able to see where you're going. And Wayne Dyer talks about it, it's really true. If you can see where you're going, then guess what? You'll get there. Money has nothing to do with it.
So it's self-driving.
Yeah. So she put those things up and I gave her some affirmations to say, but she did it and she started saying the affirmations I gave her. It's in one of my books. And she started saying it, and she'd say it in the morning when she first woke up. She'd tell the universe what kind of day she wanted to have. She looked at it at lunchtime. She took a picture of the big one. She had the little one. And at dinner, when she get ready to go to sleep, she said it again. In 1 week, her boss, who she hated, made her a full partner in the company. They landed Kodak as an account. They inducted 10,000 photographers in the largest photography convention in U.S. history. And she headed up the whole thing. She had all expenses paid, luxury travel and accommodations on there, staying at 5-star hotels, eating the fancy restaurants. Well, Kodak sent her to Paris, to London, and Australia, where she did the same conventions there, and she got to eat all the fancy.
So she later on got hired by Kodak?
In 1 week, from doing what I told her to do.
Wow.
She was made a full partner by her boss.
You're such an inspiration. Wow, that
Within
is so nice.
2 weeks of that, they landed Kodak as an account. They inducted 10,000 photographers in the largest photography convention in U.S. history in Manhattan. Kodak sent her to Paris, to London, and Australia, which was on her map, to those places, to the same convention they did in Manhattan in those places.
Are you a prophet or something?
That's what I do for a living. That is my job.
Wow.
That's why I've worked for 4 billionaires. I've worked for Fortune 500 companies. I've been all over the United States. I've been to the White House and the Pentagon.
Tell me what to do to be a millionaire.
Well, I'm trying to tell you now. So anyway, so when she came back, she ate all the fancy restaurants. She had to join the gym and start working out. And she came home and flowers were delivered to her apartment. And she looked around like someone was going to get her, and she put them in her, and she looked and it said, you know, where kind of like the florist it came from, but didn't really say who it was. She went to work the next day, there was flowers at work. For 4 months, every week, flowers are delivered to her home and to her office. To this day, she can't tell you who sent them all. And she had $150,000 annual income on there. She made $150,000 in less than a year. What changed?
Wow.
She knew exactly what she wanted, but she couldn't see it. But I showed her how to create it, so once she saw it and she had the affirmations,
she went for it.
Yeah, in less than a year she made 100. So all that stuff happened basically in 6 weeks.
That is so nice. That is, you're such an inspiration. You're such a dream releaser. Wow. I'm so inspired by what you do.
Most of the people that come in for a session with me, not a lot of people make it to my door, but those that actually come in for an appointment within 6 weeks, everything completely changes over.
So how do people reach you if they wanted to reach you out there?
Well, I have a website. It's it's charlenehinks.com, or my phone number is 770-351